Everything you need to know about To Kill a Mockingbird, Chapter 22. So Chapter 22 picks up with the kids leaving the courtroom with Jem crying, saying to himself that it ain't right. They meet Atticus at the corner, waiting for them, and Jem repeats his statement. Atticus agrees with him, and they walk home. Aunt Alexandra is up, waiting, and tells Atticus that she's sorry. Jem keeps looking at Atticus puzzled, and Aunt Alexandra asks how Jem is. Atticus says he'll be okay, but what happened was a little overwhelming for him, then says he's going to bed and not to wake him up in the morning. Aunt Alexandra adds she didn't think it wise for the children to see it, but Atticus says this is where they live, so they have to learn to deal with it, that it's a part of Maycomb like anything else. Before he goes to bed, Jem calls to him and asks how they could do it. Atticus confesses he doesn't know, but they've done it before, they did it tonight, and they're going to do it again, and it seems that only children cry when they do. In the morning, Atticus is already up, and before Jem can ask about the trial, Atticus tells him not to worry yet, that they will appeal the case. When he gets breakfast from Calpurnia, Atticus is surprised at the chicken and rolls, which are fancy for breakfast. Calpurnia tells Atticus to come in the kitchen, and the table is overflowing with food that Calpurnia found on the back steps when she arrived. Calpurnia tells him the black community wanted to show their appreciation for what he did. Atticus tears up and tells her that he's thankful and to tell them, but to also tell them not to do it again as it's difficult economic times. Remember, this story is set during the Great Depression. Atticus leaves for town and Dill comes in, telling about his talk with Aunt Rachel that morning. Her comment was that Atticus can beat his head against the wall if he wants to, meaning he wasted his time defending Tom since it didn't do any good. Dill says he would have told her off, but she looked haggard that morning from worrying about him. Jem tells Dill to stop worrying her, but Dill says he'd told her where he was going, but she just didn't remember, probably because she starts sipping on the booze at breakfast. Aunt Alexandra accuses Dill of being cynical, but Dill maintains he's just telling the truth. When the kids go outside, several neighbors, Stephanie, Maudie, and Mr. Avery, are out talking and look at the kids. When the kids come up to them, Miss Stephanie is all nosy, asking about who gave them permission to go to court and did Atticus have it planned for them to be in the balcony with the African Americans. Miss Maudie hushes her up and invites the kids in for cakes. And instead of 3 little ones like she normally bakes for them, there are 2, and Jem gets a slice from the main cake, which is showing that she sees he's growing up and dealing with this trial on a deeper level than the other 2. After looking at Jem, Miss Maudie has some words of advice for him. First, she told him not to worry, that things are never as bad as they seem. Then adds that some people are born to do the difficult jobs in life and that his father is one of them. Now, Jem can only say, oh, well, kind of, forlorn and bummed out. But Maudie corrects him, saying that he isn't old enough really to get what she's saying to him. Jem says he feels like he was in a cocoon, asleep in a warm nest, where he thought the people of Maycomb were the best, implying that now he sees them differently. He's kind of woken up and seen the real world. Maudie tells him that overall they are a safe people, but when they're called on to do the right thing, there are men like Atticus that will do it. Jem tells her he wished more felt that way and asks who else did anything to help Tom Robinson. Now Miss Maudie tells him to think about it, that he'd be surprised. Tom's friends helped, the sheriff helped, and even the judge asked Atticus to take the case. Scout thinks about this and realizes that another less experienced lawyer is usually who gets these appointed defense cases, but in this case, the judge asked Atticus to do it. Miss Maudie said she was sitting on the porch waiting all night, knowing Atticus couldn't win, but that he was the only one that could keep a jury talking that long. And to her, that was a step in the right direction. Jem responds that Christian judges and lawyers can't always make up for unbelieving juries. Leaving her house, Dill says he wants to be a clown when he grows up, join the circus, and laugh at people. When Jem says that people actually laugh at clowns, Dill says he's going to be a new kind of clown and stand in the center ring just laughing at people. They notice the adults outside had moved in front of Miss Stephanie's house now, and she and Miss Rachel are waving to them. Miss Rachel told Dill danger was coming and to get inside the fence, and Alexandra tries to call Jem and Scout inside, but not before Miss Stephanie tells them that Bobby will spit in Atticus's face in front of the post office that morning and promise to get him if it took the rest of his life. So what are you supposed to get from this chapter? Well, this chapter starts to deal with the aftermath of the guilty verdict from the trial. Being older and more mature, Jem is taking it harder than Scout is. Not aware of the extent of the ingrained racism in his society, it makes no sense that Tom could be found guilty. Atticus can only give him a solemn and sorrowful acknowledgement that when it comes to race, white culture will too often do the wrong thing. We also see the unity and appreciation of the African American community that brings food as a way of thanking Atticus. The other important conversation in this chapter is with Miss Maudie as she continues to develop the theme of integrity, especially in the character of Atticus, when she recognizes that there are few men of his quality that will stand up and do the right thing just because it's the right thing to do. But Miss Maudie's words draw attention to other like-minded individuals that were also trying to do the right thing. And she gives some insight into the process of social justice, that change doesn't take place overnight, but it must be worked at by courageous individuals that are willing to step up and do the right thing in the face of cultural resistance. Now lastly, we see rising action at the end of the chapter. Because with the trial over, the verdict may have seemed like the climax of the novel, but there's still a quarter of the book left, leaving us to wonder, well, what's still left to do? The trial's over. But there are unanswered questions still. Remember what we were told on the first page? This story is supposed to tell us how what was talked about on the first page happened, and we still don't know. Also, does the title only mean that the kids should not shoot mockingbirds with their BB guns, or is To Kill a Mockingbird have something else that it means? Is it maybe a little deeper in that title? Well, at the end of the chapter, Atticus is attacked and threatened by Bob Ewell, so we know that he hasn't just gone away. Obviously, Bob Ewell is not content to have won the case. He has a score to settle with Atticus. If you have any questions, you can ask him below in the comments.